All right, thanks for joining us for this topic today, power in collaboration. So you're probably wondering what we want to talk about. Two organizations kind of coming together and collaborating, so fueling the future for independent pharmacy. We're talking about technology, advocacy, and then your pharmacy and what it means for you guys. So my name's Nicolette. I'm a pharmacist, pharmacy owner, founder of Atrium24, created Dotti, pharmacy's first fully PMS-integrated CRM and sales enablement tool. And throughout this webinar, it'll make sense why that matches up with this initiative that we're working on with APC. So that's me. I'm Nicolette, and I'm happy to have Tenille with me here today. Hey, Tenille.
Hi, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Tenille Davis, and I am the Chief Advocacy Officer for the Alliance for Pharmacy Compounding. If you're not familiar with our organization, we are the national trade association that represents compounding pharmacies and the patients that we serve. So my entire job is to protect our industry from external threats, may that be from excessive regulation, media, telling stories about us that aren't necessarily true. So it's a big job, but I'm excited to be here today. And one of the tools that we use to tell our story and to do our work is data. Previous to my coming on here at APC, I was the pharmacist in charge at a sterile and non-sterile compounding pharmacy in Arizona. I also serve on the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy, but I'm talking today in my personal capacity and not as a member of the board. So I'm excited for a collaboration with Atrium24 and Nicolette and all of you, because I think that we're going to be more powerful the more information we have to tell our story.
Yes, absolutely. And we're glad to have you here and your expertise and your organization. So what do we want to talk about today? Tenille's going to tell us why this collaboration matters now, why the timing is critical. We all know there's some crazy things going on right now just with regulation. So Tenille will touch on that. And then how does this advocacy intersect with technology? So just practically, what does it mean for your pharmacy? How can you participate in this initiative that we're really pushing towards? It's going to be so helpful for the industry at large. How you can participate, it's completely optional, completely opt-in, opt-out, very transparent and visible. So we'll walk through that with you guys. But let's start with the reality of it. So what's going on, Tenille? What's changed and why is this timing so important?
So you might have noticed that compounding has become a little bit more of a flashpoint in the last couple of years. We all know that compounding is the traditional practice of pharmacy, and pharmacists have been creating custom medications for patients for centuries. But compounding really came into the attention of regulators, the media, the public in the last couple of years with what's happened with GLP-1s. So it's some drug makers came out with some really revolutionary medications and really advertised them heavily, but they were unable to keep up with the demand that was created in the marketplace. It's the first shortage that I can think of in the history of my career that was actually demand driven rather than supply driven. And compounding pharmacists stepped in and were able to compound copies of these GLP-1 medications to help fill in the supply chain gaps. That really put us on the radar of the media and the public and regulators, and compounding became a lot more well known in our country. And during these periods of shortages, we would have people reach out to us. We had the FDA directly reach out to APC and say, how many compounded GLP-1 prescriptions are being dispensed? And we had to say, we don't know, because compounding pharmacies aren't required to submit that information to anybody. There's a few states that require some dispensing reporting, like Nebraska and the new requirement in Maryland. But overall, we had to say we didn't know. And we think that the FDA would have taken longer to resolve the shortage of these medications if they had understood the scale of how many compounded versions were being dispensed in the industry. They weren't counting that when they were doing their supply demand calculation to determine if Lilly and Novo had enough capacity to fill the prescriptions in the marketplace because they didn't know how much compounding was actually going on. And it really, like, kind of opened our eyes to how much more impactful we could be as an association that focuses on advocacy if we had more information and better information about what compounders in the country were actually doing and actually dispensing.
Yeah, yeah, because there's no real, there's no true across the board, even accreditation for compounders or even like designation. So that leads in perfectly to this question. So what's been missing? We have this really, once in a lifetime event where there was this huge shortage. Now patients are really involved in direct to consumer, preventative health care. They know a lot more about compounding pharmacies than they ever did. And so with this whole kind of perfect storm, what's been missing in that?
Yeah, I mean, this data piece has really been missing. Compounding is continuing to increase with more eyes on the industry and with the rise of telehealth and telehealth companies being able to partner with compounding pharmacies for fulfillment services. We know that the industry is filling more and more prescriptions than ever before, but we don't know exactly what kind of prescriptions they're filling and to what scale they're filling those prescriptions. We know that a lot of pharmacies do their own internal data analysis and look at what percentage of their business might be comprised of women's health or low-dose naltrexone versus some other therapies. But as a whole, as an industry, we don't know. So there's some very, very large compounders, there's very, very small compounders, and there's lots of ones in the middle that maybe hybrid pharmacies that are doing a little bit of compounding here or there, but we don't really have a good grasp on what that is. We talked about like pharmacies living in a silo and advocacy living in this other silo, and we're trying to find a way for them to talk to each other so we can use this real world data to tell the story about compounding to policymakers and legislators and the media and the public so it can accurately reflect what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, it's such an important inflection point for all of us, and it really is a very smart approach that you guys at APC have taken to this problem of this data and the pharmacies and everybody being siloed and not integrated. So I'm excited to show you, because I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So I'm excited to show you just what this project is and how you can participate, how everything is secure. So we'll definitely dig into the details there. But why does advocacy need pharmacy participation?
Sure. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's been a lot of work by some large drug makers to limit compounding to protect their market share of their medications. We've seen in the House of Representatives legislation that was introduced last week that would limit compounding almost completely by two congressmen from Indiana, which is the home state of Eli Lilly. We're also hearing a lot of rumors of state legislation that's being shopped ahead of the 2026 legislative sessions. So more than ever, I need the data to back up the story that I'm telling, that limiting access to compounded medications because of drug maker pressure about two APIs only, the compounding is so much bigger than just GLP-1s that we can tell the story saying, we have X amount of pediatric patients that are supported by compounding pharmacies or X amount of veterinary patients, because we know that there's not very many FDA approved veterinary medications. And we have animals out there that are, tiny kittens to huge elephants, and compounders are the ones that are able to create the custom formulations for those. So being able to tell the complete story of compounding to prevent this bad legislation from getting introduced and passed is really why it's kind of urgent more than ever. We started this project probably almost even about a year ago, but it's been a little bit of a slow uptake to get pharmacies to participate because unlike your members, it has to be a little bit more manual for people that aren't members of your organization. They have to, upload the data to a secure job form through us. But I'm excited because, we've got these researchers that we've hired to do data analysis to help us tell this story of compounding in a compelling way. They're researchers with Emory's University School of Public Health. So we've got some real brains behind the process. But as of right now, I have had a hard time getting enough uptake, because if we don't have enough participation, I can't extrapolate the numbers to the whole country. I can't say 3% of prescriptions dispensed in the country are compounded medications unless I've got enough power, enough power in the numbers that I have in the types of pharmacies and geographic locations, so that it's actually extrapolatable to the entire country, so we can provide them with reliable data.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I know even in Florida here where I'm at, we have some legislation that's being introduced that'll limit compounding just entirely because it doesn't make sense. The wording doesn't make sense about APIs and things. And then even in the GLP pathway, like you said, compounding is so much bigger than GLPs. And in the GLP pathway, we have, big pharma trying to reclassify drugs that are in the pipeline, like the retatrutide. They're trying to reclassify that one as a biologic, and that would change, you wouldn't be able to compound it. The patent would be longer, all kinds of things. So we definitely need pharmacy participation in advocacy. And then, just in general, our pharmacies, we need better infrastructure to run our pharmacies and to keep up with all these changes. So we all know that manual sales tracking, it doesn't scale. I've been working with pharmacy owners on tracking their data, running their sales systems for years, for over 10 years. And the technology that we've built, I know we have a lot of members on this call, members of Atrium24, and they use our Dotti CRM. It's fully integrated with your PMS. So Dotti is the first pharmacy-specific sales enablement tool, sales system, just automatically pulls in all your prescribers, all your dispensing information. That was one of the biggest hurdles that we had to overcome when I first built the Dotti as a pharmacist and a pharmacy owner myself, managing multiple sales reps, is we need something that pulls in all of our data automatically. And it does, and it refreshes every day. It's all secure. We don't pull in any patient information. We don't show any patient information. It's just your sales dashboard. So it's showing you prescribers, trends, your top compounds, a lot of clinical training courses in there, 350 plus marketing materials, but all of this helps our pharmacies, just so that you're not doing all double entry. How many pharmacy owners do we know that are putting things in spreadsheets or typing things from here to here or running manual reports? So since our CRM sales system is integrated, you don't have to do any of that. And that's when it became intriguing that, we already have this infrastructure at Dotti, and it's taken me, Atrium's 6.5 years old. And from day one, I was working on these data partnerships with these PMS companies. And our developers have a very strong background in cybersecurity that we have in-house. So just being able to pull all this in, clean the data. We use AI on the back end to alert us if anything's wrong with the data, if it's broken, if it stopped feeding. Crazy things happen, as you guys know. IP addresses change, all that kind of fun stuff. Maybe, your sold column won't populate, whatever. Well, we fix all that and clean it. So our pharmacies don't have to worry about it, because you guys have a lot more pressing, kind of better things to do than to worry about the cleanliness of your data. So then with Atrium24 and APC, better together, what were we thinking, Tenille? I know we were talking about this for some time, and there's a lot of questions which we'll answer for you guys about data security and transparency and what fields, and am I going to get a subpoena? And we'll get into all that fun stuff further on in the call. But what did you envision for this, Tenille?
Sure. Well, when we were thinking about ways to partner with other organizations, because we were, having trouble getting pharmacies to sign up and upload their data, just because a lot of independent pharmacies are overworked. The pharmacist is on the bench filling prescriptions, and they don't really have the time or bandwidth to participate in projects like this. And
Right.
when we realized that so many of your members were already, having their data pulled into a system automatically without them lifting a finger, because of your integrations, we thought that perhaps there was a way for us to collaborate, APC to, get in front of your members, and your members get in front of APC, and like work together, because you already have this data. And the pharmacies, if they would participate in this data initiative, the APC, it's going to protect the entire industry, and it's just no lift on their end. It's really, really easy and seamless because of the great system that you've created.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. And we have We do have, so the two data paths that we talked about, our Dotti members, you use data inside of Dotti to power your My Data menu, which is just your pharmacy's data. Only your store is seeing that, and that's all your pharmacy specific data. We also have data share so that you can industry benchmark and see what's going on. And in the APC side, so just to be clear, Atrium does not share any data outside of the Dotti platform anywhere. This is the very first time that we've explored and gone through the lawyers and everything, a completely transparent, totally opt-in program where if you explicitly fill out the optional opt-in form that we're going to email all of our Dotti members, and then anybody who signs up for Atrium24 going forward, this opt-in agreement for the industry advocacy will be put in front of you. So you'll completely know at all times, I am sharing data with APC. These are the exact data fields I'm sharing. We'll show you, it's actually not many. And then APC is taking that data. APC can never tell who it's coming from. It has a unique identifier, so APC can never trace it back to see which pharmacy it came from. And then the data, all anonymized aggregate data, is going to the researchers at Emory so they can put it together and just look like how big is this, the desiccated thyroid compounding that we just went through, or HRT, or veterinary, like how big is this compounding market? Do we have a large enough N of a data pool that we can extrapolate across the country? So that was very important to us as well, is not to concern any of our members. You're using the data within Dotti to populate your sales dashboards, to know how your sales reps are doing, to grow your sales team. And none of your data is shared outside of that. So this is the very first time that we have put together a pathway where you can optionally share a select set of completely de-identified anonymized data fields. And it's twice a year. So we'll for the opted-in pharmacies, we're going to send this data to APC twice a year to their researchers at Emory. And it's a completely separate agreement. So like I said, you'll always know if you're opted in, if you're opted out, and you can opt out at any time as well. So you're not stuck or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to know about this data is that we're not asking for any sales related data. I don't want any dollars, no sales related data, and no HIPAA protected information. It's really just what drugs are being dispensed and what dates. So we can tell, a hybrid pharmacy might do 20% compounding, or a compounding only pharmacy that doesn't take insurance might dispense 7 or 8% commercial drugs. It'll help us create different categories for compounding pharmacies and help us understand what's really happening in the media. Part of the problem with what's told is if, say, there's a compounding error that gets a lot of media attention, we don't know what the denominator is. So if there's one error, but there's, 10 million prescriptions that have been filled, the percentage is a lot different when we don't know the total number of prescriptions that are filled. And that's why we're so interested in this information. And I would really like to tell the story of, like, say, GLP-1s. When the shortage first started and pharmacies started increasing production of GLP-1s, what did that look like over time? And how fast were pharmacies able to jump in and start helping fill those prescriptions for patients that weren't able to get them? And then once the shortage was resolved, what did that look like? Did pharmacies stop dispensing kind of all of a sudden, or did it taper off? And we know that we have to be really careful about how we tell this story so that it's not weaponized against us. And the APC board of directors is going to be very involved in how this data is used to tell the story of compounding so it doesn't accidentally cause any issues for us. But like Nicolette said, we would never be able to tell who submitted what data set. I was a little bit concerned that a pharmacy might be apprehensive to participate in the process if they thought it could be traced back to them. So we created a really secure system. Each pharmacy gets a randomly generated 10-digit number as kind of their pharmacy identifier. So we know each data set belongs to one singular pharmacy. But there's no way for us to ever take that number and figure out what pharmacy it is, as long as the pharmacy only submits the data fields that we're asking for. But with the system that is created here at Dotti, those are the only fields that will ever be shared with APC.
Yep. Yeah. And so we talked through this a little bit, for pharmacies, what do you gain? And for the profession, what do you gain? But is there anything that you wanted to add in there, Tenille?
I mean, the profession gains a lot because we get to better understand what it looks like. We've had 20 some odd pharmacies agree to participate already on APC side, and I've got, a good data already. And I just find it really interesting what's happening out there. Something like I created categories to put compounded medications into so we could understand, not every single prescription is going to be able to be categorized, but we can do some wide categorization like women's hormones or low dose naltrexone or desiccated thyroid. And so I made 7 or 8 kind of broad categories, and 49% of the compounded prescriptions dispensed were not in those categories. So I expected a lot more GLP-1 compounding, but the number one line of service that was submitted to so far, I only have 20 pharmacies, so I can't necessarily extrapolate it to the whole country at this time, but was women's health, women's hormones. And I was a little bit surprised by that. So I'm excited to kind of better understand what the industry is actually doing so we can better understand how to support the industry as an advocacy association.
Right. That makes sense. I love making all decisions, as many decisions as possible that are data driven. I don't really like just making a decision without data. So it helps the pharmacies, it helps the profession, of course. And then as far as participating, like we said, it's simple, it's optional, it's secure, there's no mandate. There's a clear opt-in, so we'll send that to our Dotti members after this. If you're not a Dotti member yet, we'll have you fill out our contact form at the end, just so that Sam on my team can give you guys a call, talk about your pharmacy, talk about the membership tiers. We help you save a lot of money on vetted 503B products. We have all the marketing materials and all the data, so you can get them out into your community. That's what our most successful pharmacies are doing, is the 503B products, unless you're a sterile compounder yourself. But you can go through that pathway if you're not a Dotti member and talk to Sam, because all of our Dotti members, if you do want to participate in this initiative with APC, you don't have to, like Tenille said, go and manually format and upload your data. If you just sign the opt-in, it'll be automatically entered into the data pool and sent to APC twice a year. Tenille, what about if they are a Dotti member, but they're not an APC member yet? Can they still send data? And then what's kind of the pathway there?
Yeah, so if they're a Dotti member and not an APC member yet, obviously we would love them to become a member of APC, but I'm able to accept data from any pharmacy that identifies as a compounder. So they are not required to be an APC member to participate, but obviously we would love them to be a member of APC. We are an organization that is very small. We don't have very many people working for us, but we punch above our weight. So we are able to enact real change at both the FDA level and the State Board of Pharmacy level to protect the industry. And we need all the support we can get to continue to do that good work.
Yeah, it really is a wonderful organization, and just such a high caliber organization too. Of course, your guys' team and all the pharmacies that work with APC. It's just, if you're a compounder, you have to be a member of APC, because it's all the movers and shakers and the innovators and the folks that are just so passionate about patient access and about doing things the right way too. And that's really important. And so just to iterate here, the data fields that are shared, and these are the only ones, it's the drug name, the strength, the quantity dispensed, the species, whether it's a human or veterinary, if we have that information, if that's pulled from your PMS, and then just what date did you dispense it. So yeah.
And we're looking for all prescriptions dispensed, not just compounded prescriptions, because I would like to see for hybrid pharmacies what percentage of your business is compounding versus commercial drugs. We asked some basic demographic questions too, like how many states you're licensed in and how many employees you have, to help us determine how big of a pharmacy you are, so we can categorize you as a small, medium, or large pharmacy. And that helps our researchers get a clearer picture that we have enough participants to make sure that it is able to be extrapolated, and with a reasonable certainty, we can say this is what's true. This is how many prescriptions are being dispensed of this product line throughout the United States.
Yep. Yeah, and you know what was intriguing to me too is like thinking especially using AI is going to become so impactful in this, and AI is not useful unless you have a clean data set to run it against. And you know that big pharma is investing billions of dollars in AI, and you know that they have huge data sets. So in order for us even to have a chance and to keep compounding viable, and because patients love compounding, I mean, we all wouldn't be here if we didn't know how great compounding was. And we have to aggregate this data in order to stay viable. And that's my true belief. So how to get involved, you know, we touched on it. This QR code is for Dotti if you want to talk with Sam, and if you want to see the Dotti platform, if you want to see how the data behaves inside of Dotti. We even have a free trial in Dotti, so you can sandbox with your own data, just to see what pulls in and what insights surface for you. But that's how you would get involved there. So like I said, a lot of members, I'm clicking on here, a lot of the people on the call are Dotti members. Hello, that's awesome. We love you guys. And and if you're not a Dotti member, definitely explore it. We can help your business to be more efficient, streamlined, profitable, more of a sales engine, which we all really want to make sure that we're focused on for our 2026 goals and beyond. And then definitely stay connected with APC. I'll give you some contact information here too. Oh, we always have to put in the shameless plug about our conference, Atrium X. That's in early March. Atrium X, where we have the breakout sessions, and everybody who's there votes on what they want the topics to be about. So definitely come to Orlando, March 5th through 7th. And then later in March, head out to Austin for APC's
Yep.
Owner Summit.
Yeah, we have our, I think it's fifth annual owner summit, fourth annual maybe. And this is a conference that's just for pharmacy owners and managers. So there's no clinical topics. It's only about running your business, increasing sales, all of the business related things, a little bit of legal information. And it's a really great place to, get to meet other pharmacy owners and share ideas. This year, we've got a whole AI kind of pre-session that I'm really excited about, because it will we're going to have the ability for you to create your own GPT model that you can use in your pharmacy to do things like auto answer emails, basically teaching you the skills to create your own GPT that you can train to do lots of different things. So we're really excited about that, and hope that you can join us in Austin this year in March.
Yeah, I've been for the past handful of years, and that's a great show as well. So we will take any questions that you guys have. And then here's just some more contact information. But I'm really excited about this data initiative. Whoops, let me go back. Let me go to the QR code there too, just in case you guys want to get into the funnel so Sam can contact you. I know it's a crazy time of year, so even if you want to just pop it in there and then tell him, oh, don't contact me till, January or whatever it is, that'll be here before we know it. But I know I'll kick it off, and then if you guys have any questions, pop them in the chat or raise your hand. But Tenille, I had questions when I first heard about this data initiative, because there's some fear of big pharma. Big pharma is huge. Their income is more than most countries. So like you said, we don't want our individual pharmacies to be targeted or called out. Or is there a risk for our pharmacies for sharing this data that big pharma is going to come get us or make our lives miserable?
No, we worked really hard with attorneys to craft kind of an ironclad data agreement between APC and the pharmacies. So there isn't any way that a big pharma would be able to get this information from us. I had some members be concerned about subpoenas, like if an organization would be able to subpoena APC for this information. But subpoenas are granted by a judge, and there has to be enough evidence submitted by whoever is requesting the subpoena to show that it's necessary. And the lawyers that we talked to said that if a pharmaceutical company or a federal agency or a state board of pharmacy had interest in subpoenaing information from a pharmacy, they would subpoena it directly from your pharmacy's, pharmacy management system, Pioneer, Arc, LifeFile, or whatever, because it's a complete set of information. APC wouldn't even be able to tell what pharmacy was what. So it's kind of useless for those kind of organizations. But I did have people concerned about it, but the lawyers assured us that it's a almost nil possibility that that could ever happen.
Yeah, that's true. And even if you think about it, I know I read a lot of on like the justice.gov, and I read a lot of the OIG reports of just when things went sideways in pharmacies, just to try to see what's going on and how the regulation's being applied. And now that I think about it in that light, these pharmacy records don't typically get subpoenaed, because that's like
Yeah.
very sensitive and vast information that doesn't necessarily apply to what, especially a privately held company would try to be,
Yeah.
suing another privately held company for. So that makes sense to me. That made me feel better to be like, okay. And then the lawyers, of
Yeah.
course, looked through and corroborated that that's not really
Yeah.
something we have to be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely been subpoenaed in my time as a pharmacist in charge, but it's always about one particular patient's records or one particular doctor's prescribing, records. I've never seen an ability to subpoena, like, say, an entire dispensing record.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And I think just as we stated, now is really the time for this advocacy. And I love that we have the capability at Atrium to help, since I mean, this data aggregation is painstaking, and the developers and the servers and the cybersecurity that we have to invest to pull all this together. But we want to make it as clean as possible for pharmacies, that if you want to help with the advocacy, if you want to protect compounding and really expand our rights in compounding, we have to do it with data. And so
Yeah, we
I,
really hope that us being proactive with this data would prevent any sort of, you know, regulation or legislation that might change and require this data to go to, say, the State Board of Pharmacy or to the federal government. If APC has the data and is able to control the narrative, we think it's going to be a lot better for the industry as a whole.
I think so too, because look how effective APC has been in state boards and with the FDA, and even how frequently Scott Bruner is interviewed and quoted in all types of different media. And so imagine how much more effective that's going to be with data sets behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really looking forward to this collaboration, and we really hope that you guys will do an opt-in and to this program and let Atrium24 and Dotti flow that information directly to APC in a way that is really, really painless for you.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. I'm really excited to collaborate with APC, and Dotti members, be on the lookout. We're going to send you guys the opt-in, review it. Any questions that you have, don't be shy. Reach out to us. We can get on with Tenille. We can just kind of figure things out. But I'm excited about this collaboration, and thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Nicolette, and she can put you in contact with me, and we can go over any concerns that you might have.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Tenille. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nicolette. Appreciate you.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye.